Your mother swears she never said those words that destroyed your confidence in 3rd grade. She remembers it differently. Her version is so detailed, so emotionally consistent, that you begin to question your own memory. Here's what's happening. You're witnessing a narcissist rewrite reality in real time. And the most disturbing part? She might actually believe her version is true. Most people think narcissists are simply pathological liars. They're wrong. Narcissists operate on a far more sophisticated level. They don't just deceive others. They reconstruct the fundamental architecture of shared reality. Dr. Albert Bandura's groundbreaking research on moral disengagement shows us exactly how this works. Narcissists don't merely twist the truth. They create entirely new versions of events that serve their psychological needs, then deploy specific cognitive mechanisms to make these fabrications feel more real than reality itself. The process starts with what researchers call euphemistic labeling. A narcissist doesn't remember screaming at you. They remember having a passionate discussion about your future. They don't recall threatening you. They gave you a reality check. The actual events get linguistically transformed into something more palatable to their self-image. Dr. Bandura found that this isn't conscious deception. The narcissist's brain literally processes these reframes as accurate representations of what occurred. Then comes advantageous comparison. Your pain becomes insignificant when compared to what they've endured. Your version of events becomes hysterical overreaction when measured against their reasonable response to your provocations. Every narcissist is perpetually the victim of circumstances more dire than whatever they inflicted on you. This comparative framework makes their behavior seem not just justified, but restrained. But here's where it gets truly insidious. Narcissists excel at displacement of responsibility. The fight wasn't their fault. You made them angry. The cruel words weren't their choice. You pushed them to that point. Dr. Stanley Milgram's obedience experiments revealed how easily people surrender moral agency to authority figures. Narcissists weaponize this tendency by positioning themselves as reactive rather than proactive agents in every conflict. The most chilling mechanism is diffusion of responsibility. When confronted with contradictory evidence, text messages, witnesses, documentation, narcissists suddenly develop collective amnesia. Everyone was stressed that day. Nobody remembers clearly what happened. The situation was chaotic. They transform clear-cut incidents into murky group dynamics where individual accountability dissolves into shared confusion. Consider the case of Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes. For years, she convinced investors, employees, and board members that her blood testing technology worked despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. She didn't just lie about the science. She created an entire alternative reality where the technology's failures were always temporary setbacks, where critics were jealous competitors, where regulatory concerns were bureaucratic obstacles to revolutionary healthcare. Her employees found themselves questioning their own expertise when confronted with Holmes's unwavering certainty about a reality that didn't exist. Dr. Jennifer Fried's research on institutional betrayal reveals how narcissists exploit our cognitive biases to make their reconstructed realities stick. We have a fundamental need to believe that people we depend on are trustworthy and competent. When a narcissistic parent, partner, or boss presents their version of events with complete confidence, our brains work over time to resolve the cognitive dissonance. It's often easier to doubt our own perceptions than to accept that someone we rely on is systematically distorting reality. The documentary evidence problem makes this even more complex. Narcissists are remarkably skilled at creating paper trails that support their narratives. They save the text messages that make them look reasonable while deleting the ones that reveal their cruelty. They remember the witnesses who will corroborate their story, while forgetting the ones who saw what really happened. Dr. Elizabeth Loftus's decades of memory research shows us how easily human recollection can be contaminated. Narcissists intuitively understand this vulnerability and exploit it ruthlessly. Smart people fall for narcissistic reality rewrites precisely because they're smart. Intelligent individuals pride themselves on being rational and evidence-based. When a narcissist presents a coherent alternative narrative supported by selective evidence and delivered with absolute conviction, intelligent people engage their analytical faculties to make sense of the discrepancy. This engagement is exactly what the narcissist needs. Once you start trying to rationalize their version of events, you're already accepting the premise that their version might be valid. The collective rewrite is perhaps the most devastating aspect of narcissistic reality distortion. Entire families, workplaces, and social groups can become complicit in maintaining a narcissist's fictional universe. Dr. Irving Janis's research on groupthink demonstrates how collective delusion becomes self-reinforcing. When multiple people accept a narcissist's version of reality, dissenting voices get systematically marginalized as unreliable, bitter, or mentally unstable. The narcissist doesn't just rewrite individual memories, they orchestrate the rewriting of group consensus about what is true and what is false. Your defense against narcissistic reality distortion isn't more intelligence or better memory. It's recognizing that narcissists operate in a fundamentally different relationship with truth than healthy individuals. They don't see reality as something to be discovered or acknowledged. They see it as raw material to be shaped into whatever serves their psychological needs in the moment. Document everything, not because you're paranoid, but because narcissists count on the malleability of human memory. Save text messages. Write down conversations immediately after they happen. Create contemporaneous records that capture events before the narcissist's revisionist process begins. Trust your initial emotional reactions. Your body often recognizes narcissistic manipulation before your conscious mind catches up. That feeling of confusion, that sense that something isn't quite right, that nagging doubt about whether you're remembering correctly. These aren't signs of weakness or poor memory. They're your psychological immune system detecting an attack on your sense of reality. Most importantly, understand that narcissistic reality. Rewriting isn't a debate you can win through better arguments or more evidence. It's a coordinated assault on your ability to trust your own perceptions. The goal isn't to convince you that their version is true. It's to make you doubt that any version can be definitively true. When you encounter someone who consistently remembers events in ways that cast them as perpetually innocent or heroic, you're not dealing with poor memory or different perspectives. You're witnessing the systematic reconstruction of reality by someone who cannot psychologically afford to acknowledge their own destructive behavior. What memory from your past would someone else swear happened completely differently?